Okay, so it's 10 a.m. and I'm just gonna make breakfast. In my freezer, I have a bunch of frozen fruit. So I'm just gonna make a smoothie, and then I have hash browns also. So I'm gonna make some tofu scramble and hash browns. My apartment doesn't have a ton of counter space, so I usually just prepare my food at the kitchen table. So I'm gonna make a smoothie with strawberries, mango, and some soy milk, and maybe pineapple too. Okay, so that's my smoothie. Usually when I'm on the go, I just put it in a plastic cup that I'm reusing from a coffee shop and just take a straw so I can just sip it on the way to work. So I'm just heating up my hash browns while I prepare the tofu scramble. I'm just gonna flip them a few times until they're nice and crispy. So I'm just gonna add some onion, garlic, bell pepper, and then some turmeric, gochugaru, and nature's seasoning. So this is my scramble just cooking up. I'll just mix it around with a fork. And then I'm also just gonna crush up my hash brown and like this, and put some hot sauce on it. So I usually tofu scramble every day in some variation. I'll put it in tacos, burritos, and sometimes I'll just eat it over hash browns like this, or over toast with avocado. Yeah, this is my breakfast. Hey guys, I'm heading to the bank and I'm gonna stop and get a Miracle burger so I can show you what those look like and how good they are. So I just stopped at this cafe because the bus is 20 minutes late. I got watermelon juice because it's really hot out and they don't have soy milk, so this is actually really sick, but I don't know. I don't think I'm gonna be able to take it on the bus because there's like actual watermelon in it. So yeah, we'll see. So delicious. I've arrived at Dietary. Here's my Miracle burger. It's so beautiful. I'm gonna open it up. Okay, so this is the Miracle burger. I eat this disgustingly too much, but it's so delicious, and I got the burger. It's just 5,600 won for the burger. These Korean kids behind me are screaming. It's just 5,600 won for the burger, or 7,400 won for the whole meal. Today I just got the burger. So this is the burger. The guy like smothered it in the brown sauce, so you can't really see. Here's the patty, and then there's like a little potato onion cake kind of thing, lettuce, onions, and then this like sweet, it's like a sweet like tangy sauce. I don't really know what it is, but it's good. So yeah, this is the Miracle burger. I would say it's better than the Impossible Whopper. Yeah, so I'm gonna make some tteokbokki for dinner, and yeah. So I'm just simmering some veggies in the pan for my tteokbokki. I put garlic, onion, and bell pepper in the pan and vegetable broth. Okay, I just added the gochujang, soy sauce, gochugaru, and brown sugar. And I'm just gonna mix this around and simmer it, and then let it thicken up a little bit. Okay, and then I just added the geretok, and I'm just gonna mix this around and then let it simmer for a little bit until the geretok is nice and soft. So I'm just gonna have this with some watermelon slices. Hi guys, so I just made the tteokbokki for dinner. This is what it looks like. It's so delicious. So yeah, I'm gonna just eat this and then tell you guys a little bit about being vegan in Korea, I guess. So first thing I'm going to talk about is just what my diet looks like in a day compared to what my diet looked like in a day at home. Here, I definitely eat more like whole foods, plant-based. In the US, I was a pretty big junk food vegan. I ate a lot of like junky snacks, and like mock meats especially were a big part of my diet, like vegan chicken tenders, Gardein, Morningstar, those kinds of products. And so I definitely find myself craving them sometimes, especially when I'm hungover. Like all I want is Gardein tenders. Vegan cheese, I used to eat that like pretty much every day in the US as well, so that's been hard to live without, but I'm managing. My diet is really like starch based, like a lot of pasta, rice, right, like tteokbokki, rice cakes, ramen, that kind of stuff. I would say I actually eat a lot of fruit here just because it's like a easy snack throughout the day, and I usually have a smoothie every day. And vegetables, it depends like how many vegetables I have in my fridge, because they do tend to go bad really quickly here, so if I haven't gone shopping in a few days, I probably won't be eating as much vegetables. I would say for protein, I definitely don't get as much protein here as I did in the US, because again, in the US I had like mock meats, I ate nutritional yeast every day. Yeah, I would say getting protein here, you really have to be careful like to make sure that you're getting enough. I eat tofu every day for protein. I would say sometimes even twice a day. I have tofu every day, usually soy milk every day in a smoothie or a coffee, and then sometimes I'll make lentils or chickpeas, but it's kind of difficult because I have to cook them from like the raw dry bean. So it's definitely challenging to be vegan in Korea because it is a heavily meat-based society, and people don't really understand like why you would want to be vegan, or like they don't even really know what it is. A lot of people, when I tell them I'm vegan, they just assume that I don't eat meat. They don't understand that it's also dairy and egg. And then even when I tell them that, like when I say I don't eat dairy, they just think I mean like milk. So then they'll offer me something with cheese, and I'm like, no, I don't eat that either. And in Korea, if you watch my last video, I said that they like are always giving you food. It's kind of like a sign of like caring, or tong, which is this concept of kind of like a mutual like connection between people. So people always give you food, like especially at school. Like, all of my coworkers will just give out snacks, or like this lady at the coffee shop always gives us little candies. And sometimes it's vegan stuff, like apple juice or energy drinks, or songpyeon. Songpyeon, which is like a little moon-shaped rice cake thing, and it's usually made of like mugwort and red bean and rice, and that's usually vegan. I just ask like if there's honey in it, and then if there's no honey in it, then it's usually fine. At least those are the two I've seen. But if I am giving something that's not vegan, like the candy at the coffee shop that we go to that she gives us, it says actually on it that it contains milk. So I just give it to Chelsea, my friend, or I've been keeping them lately, and I'm just going to give them to my students when school starts. So yeah, I would say a lot of people don't understand what veganism is, but once I explain it to them and they're kind of like, oh, why don't you eat meat? Is it just like a diet, or like what is it? And I'll just be like, no, I really love animals, and like I respect them and I don't want to hurt them. They actually are really understanding, and they're like, wow, that's so kind. Like every Korean is always like, wow, you're so kind, like that is so sweet. So yeah, I mean people respect being vegan here, even if they don't necessarily understand it, but I am glad to teach them and help them understand it. Someone asked me if it's hard to find like
if it's easy to find like accidentally vegan stuff as you would in the US, and I would say no. So I mean, technically everything here that's vegan is accidentally vegan because they don't really have a big market for vegans here, but yeah, like in the US, when you're like, oh, spicy sweet chili Doritos are accidentally vegan, or Oreos are accidentally vegan, like nothing here is accidentally vegan. Everything has milk powder, chicken powder, beef powder, fish powder, like even potato chips are usually like chicken or beef or shrimp flavored, so you have to be really careful, and even when they're not flavored, they usually have milk in them. So it can be frustrating, but once you kind of know which snacks are vegan and which ones aren't, it's a lot easier. As for reading labels, they have allergy warnings, just how we do in the US, and so the ingredients are usually bolded in like a little box, and they put like chicken, beef, fish, pretty much any animal ingredient in these boxes. The only thing that they don't usually put there is honey, so you have to watch out for that. If you're buying like a sweet, usually just watch out for honey. So yeah, I think reading labels when I first got here was kind of difficult. Like I didn't really understand how to do it, and I was frustrated and I made some mistakes. Like my co-teacher helped me pick out some ramen, and like I don't think she really understood what veganism was, and it was it ended up having like milk powder in it. Okay. As for restaurants, it's a bit more difficult because you actually have to like speak to the person and ask them if there's any animal products in it, which obviously my Korean, I can't do that. Like I don't know Korean well enough. So there's a couple things you could do here. You could just kind of translate the sentence and say something like, I don't eat meat, milk, egg, or fish. Like, do you have anything that I can eat? And some places that are probably best for this are kimbap places, because they can just make the kimbap with vegetables instead of fish or beef. But some places, like the kimbap rice is already prepared with fish or meat sauce, so fish or meat sauce or powder flavoring, so they can't do that. So I would say going out to eat, best options are kimbap, bibimbap. Bibimbap, you just have to make sure they don't put an egg on it. The word for egg is keran, so I usually just will say, like, I don't know how to say this in like a sentence, but I usually just go like anio, no, and then keran, and they get the message. So yeah, bibimbap is a pretty safe option. Pasta, there's a food court like at almost all the grocery stores, and some of them have pasta, so I'll just get like aglio olio pasta, which is just olive oil and garlic sauce. That's vegan or pomodoro, and again, just make sure there's no egg in the noodle. Yeah, the pickings are pretty slim for eating out. It's in Seoul, it's really good. In Seoul there's tons of options, but in Cheongju not so much. Sometimes I'll go out to eat with the other foreign teachers here, and usually we go to like a taco place. One time we went to an Italian place, and the taco places I usually just get french fries. That's always a good option. And then we went to an Italian place once, and they had like some options, like a pasta with just tomato sauce or olive oil and garlic. And there are tofu restaurants too that just serve like different variations of steamed tofu, but again, you have to be careful because some of the sides are prepared with meat, and some of the, like, they give you sundubu jjigae, which is like a soft tofu soup that usually has fish like stock. So I went with my co-teachers, and they just told them that I was vegan, and they gave me the soup without the fish stock, but it was just like literally like crumbled tofu in tofu water. But then they gave me some sauce to add to it, so it actually wasn't that bad. It was fine. So my school is really accommodating for me. Like if we go to a restaurant, we only went to, I've only gone out to eat with them a few times, but the first place we went to had like sweet potato soup or sweet potato porridge that I could eat, and then like salad and vegetables and rice. And then I went to a ramen place with my one of my friend's co-teacher when she was helping us get our phones and stuff, and again she just like had them make the ramen without any fish powder. And then the tofu place. So they're usually pretty accommodating, making sure there's options for me. Like we were gonna go to one kimbap place, but they couldn't accommodate vegans, so we just went to a ramen place instead. That was really nice. And like I feel kind of like a burden sometimes, and I'm like, no, it's okay, like we can eat here, but they're really nice and they're like, no, we want to make sure that you can eat too. Like, I don't get school lunch. They offer school lunch to everybody and you pay an extra, like, I don't even know how much it is because I don't get it, but I think it's like 20 to 30,000 won per month. I don't get the lunch, I just bring my own, but they have some options like rice and vegetables, which I'd rather just bring my own lunch. So my school's understanding of that, and I just don't have to pay for the lunch every month. But if you do want the lunch, they'll just take it out of your paycheck every month. Hey guys, so my camera died and I was just charging it for like an hour and cleaning my room and stuff. So I got a little bit snacky and I went to 7-Eleven. It's like midnight, I think. Yeah, it's midnight. I just got these little peanut snacks. They're so yummy. This is my favorite snack, and they're accidentally vegan, I guess. They just have peanuts, wheat, and soy. Maybe TMI, but I'm on my period right now, so I'm just like really snacky and really craving like something sweet. So these are really good. They kind of taste like those like wafer cookies that you would, I don't know why I associate them with like church. These are so good. Some other stuff that people asked on my story. Are people open-minded to veganism? I would say yes. Like, people here are actually pretty, it is a really heavily meat-based society, but the younger people are open-minded. Like, I did a lesson for my students about the environment and how like going vegan or even vegetarian. I know some people are really controversial about that, but I think, you know, from an ethical standpoint, I don't agree with vegetarianism, but from an environmental standpoint, I think reduction is good. Obviously, though, it comes down to the point of like how far can humans actually make a difference without like systematic change, but I'm not gonna go into that too much. But the kids here were really open-minded to like eating vegetarian more. Like some of them were even like wanting to fully transition to vegetarianism and like kind of like reduce their meat intake, which I am really impressed by, because like Korea is such a meat-based society and like they eat meat like every meal. Like it's just how their food is. I can imagine as a Korean the idea of vegetarianism would be really hard, or veganism obviously, but some of them are really open-minded to it and like wanting to reduce their meat intake for environmental reasons, which I think is really good. And people are really understanding of me. Like nobody's really tried to challenge my beliefs. Like, you know, in America when you tell people that you're vegan, they're usually like, oh well, I could never go vegan because I love bacon and I blah blah blah, and like they're like giving you excuses, and it's kind of like, well, I didn't tell you to go vegan, like I just told you that I was vegan. And Koreans don't really do that. They're kind of just like, oh well, like why don't you eat meat? And I tell them, and then they're kind of like, oh, that's so sweet, like you're such an angel, and like it's really nice. I think I already touched on how my day-to-day diet changed, vegan staples. Also, one tip is that Oreos aren't vegan here. Like Korean Oreos are not vegan, but I've seen at 7-Eleven and eMart24 they have Thai or Malaysian Oreos, and you can tell because the Korean Oreo says like Oreo, like in Korean, on the package, but if it says Oreo in English in big letters, like, then it's usually from another country. And if you look closer at the label, you'll find that it's usually vegan. So I found mini Oreos and double stuffed Oreos at 7-Eleven. Somebody asked me if being vegan in Korea is expensive. I would say no. It's actually probably cheaper to be vegan here than it is to be a meat eater, because meat at the market is like expensive. Groceries here in general are kind of expensive, but yeah, the meat is really expensive, and like produce can be expensive, but you can find good deals on it. As for restaurants, like you know, in America when you order like a vegan option, it's kind of considered like a luxury, so it can be more expensive than the non-vegan option. You know, when you get like something in America and it's like it's more expensive to get a vegan option than it is to get like the meat option, which doesn't even make sense because meat is more expensive. But here, like, veganism isn't really a thing, so it's kind of good because usually when you get like rice or tofu or whatever, they don't mark the price up because it's like trendier. In the US, when restaurants have tofu, they usually like mark the price up because people don't order it as often, but here it's pretty common, I would say, so you don't have to do that. Overall, I would say being vegan here is definitely a challenge, especially if you're coming from a Western country like I did, where veganism is a lot more popular and like accessible for most people. Here, I would say definitely you're gonna have to adjust to eating more plant-based or whole foods plant-based instead of like relying on vegan junk food and mock meats. And there's going to be some challenges with the language barrier, and it can be frustrating, but it gets a lot better, so keep going, keep trying. So yeah, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're a vegan in South Korea, please connect with me because I love having connections here. And if you're coming to South Korea and you're vegan, also please connect with me. And if you're just here to learn about veganism in another country, that's cool too. Please subscribe and like this video if you enjoyed it, and please follow me on Instagram to see more about my daily vegan eats and finds in grocery stores and stuff. Okay?